Hey guys, welcome back to Horsepower Warehouse. I'm Junior, thanks for tuning in. Today I wanted to go over a little bit of a detailing comparison. So I have 3 of my favorite detailing tools laid out, 2 of my favorite detailing products in terms of actually compounding or buffing a car. So for this comparison, I've actually got a 66 Bronco here that came straight from Arizona, and this sucker has been baking for a minimum of 1 decade. A minimum of 10 years. As you can see, the paint is just dry as can be. So when I got it here, my prep for this is just quick wax, wipe it with a microfiber, and that is it. I didn't wash this truck, I didn't do anything. So I figured that would be a good slate. I of course wanted it to get clean because I don't want to grind in any dirt while I'm showing you guys this, but that was all the prep this truck had. So this is indicative of something that you can do at home in your garage. Of the car that's been beat in the sun, it's been weathered for years and years. These techniques will absolutely work for you guys. So what I've got here is 6 different squares. I have Menzerna for the first 3 and 3D for the next 3. We have a rotary wool, a Flex 3401, and a Porta cable. And again, 3D, rotary wool, Flex 3401, Porta cable. So we have our 6 squares kind of lined up. I have my 3 buffers over here, and I'll show you what we're working with. I've also got all of the pads primed, and I made another little clip which basically shows you my process, but in case I don't edit it in, basically I just make sure that the entire pad has some compound on it. I go in a swirl pattern and work it in with my fingers. So we have the Porta cable here, which is a non-force DA buffer. It just spins in comparison to the 3401. We have the Makita rotary. It's not a dual action. And then we have the one that I use at home on almost everything that I do for my personal projects, the Flex 3401. And of course, you guys are going to see the benefits and the downsides and the performance, of course, of each of these and how they vary in comparison. Of course, with the 2 different cutting compounds that we're going to be using today, I've chose 2 of my favorite 3-in-1s. So basically, we would do a 3-step in number 1, 2, and 3 when we're buffing a car. But this is the lazy man, or the way to cheat it. Compounds from Menzerna and 3D. Both of these compounds are really a true 1-step buff, and then you would do like a polymer sealant or a quartz sealant on top of it, something to protect it, even just a standard Carnauba wax. But these will restore your car in 1 step. And as you can see, true gloss, or high gloss, true 1-step, polish and protect. And of course, the Menzerna, the German equivalent, scratch removal and gloss in 1 step. And it says 1, 2, and 3. I use Menzerna on almost all of my personal stuff, but I've kind of been transitioning to the 3D. They're not nearly as expensive, and they're made in the USA, so I'd like to support that. But the German counterpart, this stuff has been my go-to. I absolutely love Menzerna products. I've never touched a bottle of Menzerna that's done me wrong, but all the same, the 3D made in USA, it's a lot more accessible, it's quite a bit cheaper, and as you guys will see, the performance is dang near on par, in my opinion, if not surpassing it. So without further ado, I'm going to have the camera woman step over here. I'm going to grab a buffer. First up, we're going to do the Menzerna on the rotary wool. And then while I have the rotary out, I'll just flip over to the 3D speed. Wow, that pad is far from centered. There we go. While I've got the rotary, I'm now going to switch over to the 3D. down on here. The rotary, I will say, is absolutely the least forgiving. You will burn your paint like this fast if you run a rotary dry. That's why you'll see I always pre-prime it with a bunch. I mean, I use 3 times as much compound on a rotary as I do with any other style of buffer. The Flex, I mean, the Menzerna goes a long way with the Flex. I could do dang near a whole panel with that amount. That 3D, it stays wet for days, and as you can see, it's still got a long way to go. I'm just doing probably a 10 or 15 second quickie on each of these just to show you guys a good comparison. So let's switch over to the Menzerna with a Flex 3401. Not quite enough on the pad. Let's put just a little bit down. That's enough. So now let's go over, while I have my Flex out, to the 3D. And this 3D, you only need a little bit. Yep, stays wet for days. I love this stuff. Alright, and last but not least, it looks like we're up to the Porta-Cable. So first up, Porta-Cable in Menzerna. So we have the mix of a high-end compound with a low-end buffer. Well, I shouldn't call it low-end. It's an economy buffer, a lot cheaper. These things can be had for about $139, so fantastic in terms of value. Well, with these, you can't push nearly as hard because it'll stop it. So you got to keep it turning, whereas the Flex is gear driven, so you're not going to stop it. Last but not least, Porta-Cable and 3D. Let's make sure we're lined up centered. Let's give it So now I'm going to grab a clean microfiber. We are going to pull all the tape off. I'm going to leave, of course, everything labeled, so we'll be able to check the results. So I'll be right back. All right, so I'm back with a microfiber. Let's just give it a quick wipe down. All right. Pull the tapes off, of course. There we go. All right. Let's check out our results, guys. Starting up with the Menzerna with the rotary wool. As you guys could see, it took a ton of paint off of it. By far the most aggressive, but the paint that it did leave on it, I mean, it is really, really good looking. However, this speaks volumes about how much paint do you have left on your vehicle. You can see on all the other ones, it did remove it, specifically on this edge where I was not being forgiving. I was kind of hammering it for the sake of doing this quickly for you guys. But the rotary wool, I mean, with the Menzerna is by far the most aggressive. With the 3D, the Menzerna was able to, or with the 3D, with the rotary wool, it was able to keep it wet and cool enough that it did not remove nearly as much paint. So the 3D has a kind of a wetting effect that worked great. So most aggressive, did a really good job. The Menzerna with a Flex 3401, it's a lot more forgiving than the rotary wool. It made it really, really nice. And you can see in between here how the paint started out. Menzerna with the Porter cable, it did not get the smoothing effect that you got out of the more aggressive buffers. And that's the Porter cable. There's the 3D with the rotary wool. There's the Flex 3401 with the 3D. And finally the Porter cable with the 3D. So it goes to show you guys that when you spend money on a buffer, it absolutely, the step up in between a Porter cable and a Flex 3401, I feel like the step up is absolutely worth it in terms of the quality that I get between the two. But I'm always careful with the rotary wool. I have a paint thickness meter that I put on our cars just to make sure it has enough paint on it. And of course, this is single stage. This is not base clear, guys. So this is not easy to get a fantastic, fantastic finish out of. But I think you guys can see, I mean, from where we started to what we ended up with, even with a Porter cable with a $130 buffer, a fantastic difference. And that was one step of me buffing very quickly. And if you guys want to learn more about detailing or buffing specifically, Chris Phillips, that's where I learned a lot of the techniques. I'm not going to put his name on what I just did because he would probably watch this video and be like, this kid has never learned from me before. But nonetheless, I learned how to use my Flex 3401 from his teachings. He's an excellent teacher, and he has courses that run and online videos that you can buy as well. Of course, I paid for 100% of this. I paid for all these compounds. This is the stuff that I had at home in my garage. These are my buffers, my pads. I just wanted to show you guys the money that I've spent so far and what my opinion is on my investment in detailing products. If I could only choose one, I'm afraid of using the rotary with wool on most cars because it's just simply not necessary to bite it that hard unless it's like a really fresh, brand new paint job that I'm having to block down with 2000 grit and get out a 2000 or 3000 grit wet sand job. The 3401 is my baby. It's my versatile buffer. I use that sucker on everything from my wife's new Camry and my new Tacoma to this. I mean, what am I going to use on the rest of this? Because I'm going to detail this vehicle for him. I'm probably going to lightly wet sand it to make it all even again. Of course, I'm going to clean it and prep it, decontaminate the paint, the proper process to do that. But for the sake of leaving it ugly to beautiful for this video for you guys, this was the way to do it. I would use the Flex 3401 buffer and the 3D compounds, guys. Look at how nice and wet it stayed. I mean, it's very, very forgiving. It's hard to burn a panel with a compound that stays wet for so long, and you can just work it and work it. You could do 6, 8, 10 passes, and with one pass being this way and then that way. So, I mean, it stays wet forever. That's what I really like out of a one-step compound, is I can work the panel, and when I feel like, maybe I'll just wipe it down with the microfiber and see where I'm at, and then just keep going. I mean, fantastic product. So with that being said, guys, I think that about wraps up this video. If you've stuck with me for this long, thank you so much for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already done so. I do builds, I do car reviews. I mean, I got a workshop full here of all sorts of different projects, but for the sake of making videos, I got to choose one topic each week. Please comment down below if you want to see me do something else or something in particular. I'm absolutely open to suggestions. But until then, take care, guys. Thanks.